We had only one incident where a small child spit on one of the pastors. We had no issues whatsoever in our experience there. It was actually an amazing experience. It actually changed the way I thought about Israel, and I fell in love with Israel when I came there. They're lying about a genocide. They're showing all these videos. That this is why I wanted to do this interview and get it out there, because I have not seen a legitimate video of some of the starvation claims. Not one of the
Well,
bombs and any of those things. So how does Israel help themselves or help you guys with PR to get the truth out instead of a bunch of lies?
The way children in that place will treat you will tell you exactly how the people of that place view you. You know why? Children don't know how to be on code. He went through a humiliation and he pepped it up to be a beautiful experience. That tells me how little he has a self-respect for himself, for the people he represents, and everything about himself. He should be ashamed of himself. This interview came across my feed 3 days ago when it was first posted. But the truth is this: I don't like watching an interview and going off it without doing a real investigation on the person doing the interview. Because one thing about me, I believe that everyone should talk to anybody who is willing to sit down and have a real conversation with them. It doesn't matter if you have opposing point of views on politics, religion, or whatever. If the other party is willing to sit down and have a real conversation with you, I think you should have that conversation, because you never know. Honestly, the most difficult situations are resolved sometimes just by a simple conversation. And sometimes people tend to realize how similar they are just by having a conversation. So when I first watched this interview of 3 days ago, I don't know Officer Tatum, but I was intrigued by the way he handled the interview. First of all, congratulations to him for having an interview with the Prime Minister and talking to him. It is a recommendable thing for him to accept to have an interview with him and for him to even pull an interview with him. I was very curious about that. But then, when I started watching the interview very early on, I realized that how I was watching the interview of someone who worshipped another, and the other person controlled every aspect of this interview. Because one thing I noticed is that he had questions prepared, yes, but the next thing I noticed is that there was no pushback, because he had questions prepared, which were definitely questions that people would like him to ask someone like Bibi Netanyahu, because definitely these are things people are worried about. But on the flip side of it, he had no rebuttal. He had no pushback. I mean, there were instances when Bibi didn't even have to bother answering the question, because you know what? He will answer the question for Bibi. In fact, he will bring the rebuttal all by himself. He asked the question, "Hey, Bibi, do you think that people are saying that you are doing this?" And he kept calling people who had criticism for Bibi Netanyahu's actions naysayers. And he always called everything a claim. But when it came to what Bibi Netanyahu says, oh, that is praiseworthy. Thank you so much, Supreme Leader. That is what I kept feeling, the way he kept talking to this man. It felt like he was saying Supreme Leader. I don't know if anybody has watched that movie, The Dictator. I only saw someone who was like a subordinate to that guy who was playing the dictator. And then this guy was doing that part. And you know what? I thought that there is no way this can go so bad. But you know what? Oh, God. This guy told me, you know what? Hold my beer. Hold my beer, girl, because I have more. I have more where all of this nonsense is coming from. I can give you much more nonsense than what you think you have seen. Okay? Relax. I have so much more. He asked Bibi about 10 questions, 9 or 10 questions. And in those questions, well, he answered most of them for Bibi, because Bibi didn't have to bother about it, because most of the things were from naysayers. First of all, when I watched that interview and I sat down, I was really confused at the level of worship I was watching there. Given I didn't know the guy, I told myself, let me look into the guy, watch his previous interviews. Maybe there is something I'm not getting. Because at the start of this interview, right at the beginning, he said, I am pro-Israel. I love Israel.
Obviously, I've been to Israel. I love Israel. I'm obviously pro-Israel. So I think a lot of people that follow me know that.
And then I was like, okay, well, it's not a problem for you to love Israel, to be pro-Israel. But in what aspect, in what regards do you love Israel? In what regards are you pro-Israel? Are you pro-Israel for Bibi Netanyahu doing all the things he's doing and you see nothing wrong with it? Or are you pro-Israel, like you love Israelites, you are a friend, you love the country, you love the people? Or are you pro-Bibi? Because there is a difference there. I had to go and search this guy. Come to find out, he is conservative. This guy is a black conservative. And this is one thing I noticed. After watching this, I watched another two female commentators reviewing his interview. It was so fascinating to see how these female commentators worshipped and praised everything Tatum did. They saw nothing with what Tatum did in that interview. Everything was roses and sunshine. I was very, very taken aback. They had some interesting points, which are very similar to the points Candace Owens has. And I realized they are all black conservatives. And I saw them sit on a podcast and they spoke about Candace. And for the most part, they were in agreement with everything Candace also preaches. The only difference was Israel. And that was quite interesting. But you know what? That's a conversation for another day. Let's get into what Brandon Tatum, Officer Tatum, he used to be a police officer. Interesting. Interesting. He had 9 to 10 questions for Bibi. And the first thing he dove into as soon as he met his darling Bibi was about how Christians are treated in Israel versus Gaza.
But I have a couple questions I just want to ask you because there are people in our country who I would argue are naysayers, people who disagree with some of the things that I've said, some of the things that you said. And so one of the things that I find to be dear to the hearts of people in America is the relationship between Israel, the Christians who live there. And there are people who believe, to a small degree, in my opinion, that Christians' relationships or the relationships of Christians in Israel aren't as good. And so can you speak to that, Prime Minister, about how Christians live in Israel? Are they accepted in Israel? Are they treated fairly in Israel? And then we'll get to some of the Christians that are in Gaza.
Well, the first thing is the framing of the question. He started by saying, I want you to tell the people, tell the naysayers, because everybody's a naysayer, because it seems like you can't criticize Bibi if you can't. Okay, you can't. Tell the naysayers how Christians are treated in Israel versus how they are treated in Gaza. This is already telling you, you know what? Israel might not treat Christians good, but you know what? Gazans treat Christians worst. Two things can be right at the same time. Yes, it could be true that Christians might not be treated well in Gaza, but also it doesn't make it okay if they are treated bad in Israel. I don't know if Officer Tatum, Brandon Tatum, understands that concept, but you know what? I will give it to him. Let, let's have it. Let's have it, sir. Let's have it. Now, Bibi comes in with a story of, Christians are loved because Christianity, Israel is the birthplace of Christianity. They are loved in Israel. They are welcome. They are not only welcome, but they are cherished in Israel. And you see, Officer Tatum is sitting there, nodding, nodding. He looks like a sort of sweet puppy looking at the owner like, yeah, yes, 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 master. Whew, wow. It was honestly, I don't know how to put this in a nicer way. I'm trying so hard to be nice, and it's very difficult because of how much worship was going on in this interview. It was very difficult to understand it. And then this is the thing that shocked me. I asked myself, so if this man thinks that Bibi Netanyahu does what he does to Palestinians, those in Gaza, who look like them, to the most part. I don't know in what world Officer Tatum thinks that Bibi Netanyahu likes him, a black man. In what world he thinks that he will be a favored person. You are just someone he needs at this moment, someone he needs to push forth an agenda at this moment. You just fit the bill at the moment. And you have such a platform to interview someone like this, and you don't take the opportunity to ask him questions and have pushback. have rebuttals. I'm not saying he should be disrespectful. No, there's a difference between having a respectful conversation and someone and worshiping the ground someone is walking on, spitting every nonsense, and you're saying yes, that's true. And even when they don't even need to say it. Sometimes he was saying it for him. The next thing he asked the Bibi is, people point to the Catholic Church that was bombed in Gaza, saying that it is a representation of how Israel treats Christians poorly. And he keeps saying the thing of naysayers, naysayers. And he went ahead to say, despite the fact that the Christians there have been told to leave, but they refuse to leave, and like he's trying to already give a reason why they had they were bombed. But you know the funny thing, this church was bombed without any warning.
After they arrived, they targeted the same place again. None of the attacks had any prior warnings. None of these attacks. Nasser Hospital is currently, as I mentioned before,
Bibi went ahead to talk about how he has warned people to leave. What do you want people who live in Palestine, who live in Gaza to do at the moment? Some of them have nowhere to go. They have nothing left for them. They don't even know how to move from one place to the other because they might be shot. They can't even fetch for food because they might be shot in the act of looking for food. And then you tell them they have been warned to leave. I don't know if Officer Tatum understands the concept of being in a war-torn zone, of being in a conflict zone. As someone who has been there, I don't know if he has a concept of that, telling a group of people to just wake up and leave everything. Yes, some people will be able to leave because probably they have families in other regions. They have the finances to take them from one place to the other. But that is not the fact for every population in a conflict zone. That is not a fact for every population in an area where there is conflict ongoing. I have been there once. I have felt it. I have slept under a bed for 7 days because I did not know how to move from that place to another place. I had no choice but to be under that bed. And if a gun met me, a bullet met me, that is it. And I was the lucky one who came out of that situation alive, because many of my friends, many others in that same situation did not live alive. Some of them, bullets met them under the bed, bullets met them hiding under the places they were hiding for their lives. I don't know if Officer Tatum has an iota, an idea of what it means to be a normal, common person in a war-torn zone. I was so disgusted by how he spoke about people who are in a situation they had nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with that thing happening to them. They were met with it and they had to deal with it. And he sat there because he has a microphone and he's talking to the Prime Minister of Israel. He thinks he now has and commands the authority to talk to people who are in a war-torn zone, in a conflict area, bombs flying over their heads, how they should behave. They should leave the place, and they have refused to leave. Do you understand the concept of being in a war-torn zone, Officer Tatum? Or you just feel like you have a microphone and you can speak? And he went ahead to talk about him going to Israel. And you know what? Him going to Israel, that is one thing we will come to, because I was so disgusted by how this man went through a humiliation ritual. He went through a humiliation and he pepped it up to be the beautiful experience. That tells me how little he has a self-respect for himself, for the people he represents, and everything about himself. He should be ashamed of himself. Officer Tatum has no iota what it means to be a lay human being, a common person in a war-torn zone, and that is what irks me. He should just be quiet when it comes to this, because the people, the normal common people who are in those areas, who are having things fly over their heads and they don't know if they'll be able to feed their kids, if if they are not thinking about even a roof over their head, because all they want is something to eat and just sleep under the sun, rain, or whatever is happening to them. That is what happens to people who are in war-torn zones. But you know what? He has no iota of it. So he can sit on his microphone and spew whatever nonsense he's spewing, because he's speaking to the Prime Minister of an area that, and I'm making a video on why he could do that. There is a reason why. Yes, they should leave. Do you understand the concept of being in a war-torn zone, Officer Tatum? And Bibi Netanyahu comes in with, it was an unfortunate situation, an unfortunate accident. Oh, he called the Pope. Yeah, Bibi said he called the Pope, and this is what he said, which I thought maybe this man sitting there looking like a puppy dog, nothing in the brain to say, will ask him a question about. He said he called the Pope and he told the Pope he was going to have um, a safe passage for the Christian leaders, for the leaders of that church that was bombed. Mind you, Officer Tatum probably didn't know that is the only church that is there currently. He had nothing to ask him, okay, you had a safe passage for the Christian leaders. What about the normal person? What about the common lay person there? Do you think they have the ability to be able to safely pass through this, to get to a safe place, to a safe zone? No, that is not important. He already got what he wanted. So you know what? His interview is done and dusted. Let him move on with this. Bibi says that the way they treated the people in the bomb church speaks about their policy, that it speaks more to their policy. It is not that they bombed the church, no. It is that they called the Pope after to give safe passage to the church leaders. Leaders. Main point, leaders. That is what should speak to their policy. So it means that it is okay as long as we bomb you, as long as we throw bombs on your churches, we throw bombs and kill your people, and we can call the Pope and apologize for it. Come on, man. What do you want from me? I call the Pope. That speaks for my policy. Mind you, that is not the first time a church was hit like that. No, no, no. Mind you, that was not the first time.
Israeli fighter jets struck this church, which hosts 500 displaced Palestinian Christians. They were critically injured by this brutal attack, which came without any prior warning.
Officer Tatum went to the mosque. This is the worst part of this interview. I was shocked. I told myself, maybe I'm dreaming. I went back 3 times, watched it the next day, and the next day again, just to be sure I'm hearing what I'm hearing. Maybe somehow I was sleepy the first time I heard it. Maybe somehow there is something I missed.
Christian who went to Israel. I spent 2 weeks there with the church, and we had an incredible time. We had only one incident where a small child spit on one of the pastors, and immediately after, there was an adult that came by and said, "That's not a representation of who we are. You know, we love you guys. You guys are always welcome here." And I have to say, no adults gave us any grief. We had no issues whatsoever. And our experience there, it was actually an amazing experience. It actually changed the way I thought about Israel, and I fell in love with Israel when I came there. And I think a lot of that is a testament to how Christians are actually treated, not what the naysayers say.
He, Officer Tatum, went to Israel and he said he had a wonderful experience. So wonderful. Only one child spat on a priest or a Christian leader they went with. Yeah. Only one child spat on a Christian leader. That's how wonderful it is. And you know what he said again? An elder came to them immediately and said, "This does not speak to our values. This is not who we are." But this is the thing that probably his brain is not advanced enough to calibrate and understand what is going on in that scenario, or he is just playing dumb because he has been. You can drop the comment section and tell me what he has been with, what has happened, if you can guess it. Because it's not possible for someone of his age to be that. It's not possible. If a child comes to you and spits on you, what does that tell you? Let me tell you the truth. Any community you walk into, any place, you could go into the most different place you've ever been to. The way children in that place will treat you will tell you exactly how the people of that place view you. You know why? Children don't know how to be on code. Adults will be on quote because Bibi has probably told them, oh, these are people who are coming for the propaganda campaign. All of you be on your best behavior. But you know what? Kids will not be able to be on their best behavior because it is not possible for children not to be genuine. If a child has been taught that this is not who we like, that child will act out, we don't like you. The reason a child spat on an elderly person, a pastor, or was an evangelist or a priest or whatever you people took there as Christians, the reason a child was able to spit on that person is because that child has been taught. That child has been indoctrinated to know that we don't like Christians. And you know the funny thing, Brandon Tatum would have known this, that it is the culture of these people if he had done a little bit of research online with the question he had and the experience he has had. Because they were not the first people that they are being spat on.
Little community here, we get spit on every day. Wearing a cross, you will get spit on in this neighborhood.
I was able to find videos online of people talking about their experience in Israel, how people are spitting on them. I saw videos of people screaming, "Go back, we don't want you here." Go away, we don't want you here. But no, leave it to Officer Tatum to tell you that, oh, it was such a wonderful experience. Only one child spat on us. Officer Tatum, I thought you went through the school of being an officer. That should have put something in your head to know that a child will always tell you the truth about the values of the place where you find yourself, because a child doesn't know how to be on quote. The reason those adults were smiling there is because they've been told this is the propaganda machine. Please just be on your best behavior while these influencers are here. As soon as they leave, you can go back to being you. And the child did not know that, or the child doesn't know how to be on code. So the child gave you exactly what they think about you guys. Imagine that you were the ones who were chosen, paid for to go there, but you still had that experience. Imagine what happens to someone who just goes there without the backing of the system telling them to come. Imagine what happens to them. But no, Officer Tatum doesn't think about that part. That is not important. Bibi talks about the false image, the horrible vilification against the one democracy in the Middle East, that is Israel. Vile lies that you should come to Israel. But Officer Tatum sat there, who has been to Israel, and he was able to say it. A child spat on a priest or a pastor or a religious leader. He didn't see that as a problem. Oh no, that was a wonderful experience. Ooh, how much more can you worship Bibi without that? How much more can you be a worshiper of someone? If someone invites you to their home, you go there, and then a child in that home spits on you, and then you come back, your experience is wonderful, right? Wow. 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 I used to hear adults are smart. So either there is another thing going on, or this is just pure dumbness. But I don't think a man at that age is that dumb. It's not possible. No, it's not possible. The next thing he asked him is about the claims of war crimes, that he is a war criminal, indiscriminately.
There's an accusation of a genocide that's occurring. And I'm not sure if people don't understand what a genocide is, but people are saying that Israel is committing a genocide against Gazans, against Palestinians in the West Bank, although the population numbers have grown. You know, although I've never seen a genocide performed where you feed the people who you're trying to genocide and give them leaflets and notification to exit. And I've never seen these things. So I'm shocked that the media continues to cover it this way. How do you and the PR of Israel improve to this point where the information that's true can be disseminated properly? Because I just don't understand how the Palestinians and the, not just Palestinians, but the Hamas some of the news outlets are just pitching lies every day. The emaciated children with no rebuttal. They're lying about a genocide. They're showing all these videos. This is why I wanted to do this interview and get it out there, because I have not seen a legitimate video of some of the starvation claims. Not one of the bombs and any of those things. So how does Israel help themselves or help you guys with PR to get the truth out instead of a bunch of lies?
Bibi comes in with, no army in the world has gone to the lengths that Israel has gone to warn civilians before bombing them. But we have proof of them bombing places. And some of them, not once, but twice at the same time. And Bibi calls them errors. This is it. If you make an error and you're trying to hit a target where you think Hamas is hiding, and then you hit that target and you realize, oh no, it's a church. Oh no, it's a hospital. Will you send a second bomb? I'm just asking. Will you send a second one? But no, Officer Tatum wouldn't think about that. Why would he think of a question like that? No, he has had the question. Trust me, he had good questions for Bibi. But the unfortunate thing is, Bibi was playing circles around him and he had no rebuttal, nothing else to add. I think, in my view, probably he was told, you know what, ask your questions. I will say whatever I say and you shut up. And that's what he did. Sometimes Bibi didn't even need to worry about answering the question. He answered the question before finishing asking the question. Oh, Jesus Christ. And this is another thing Bibi goes around with. Oh, he told the ICC Commission for Human Rights he had to come there to come and check to see that they are following all the rules. They are being such a wonderful people. But then the ICC person, a few days before they had to come, they did not show up, and he was wondering what happened. Then come to find out, the ICC prosecutor was accused of extra crimes against him by some of his staff members. Yes, I looked this up, and it is true that the prosecutor, the ICC prosecutor, Karim A. Khan, accused of crimes, extra crimes or extra misconduct by some of his staff members, and a second woman came forward. But then it could be that happened, but it doesn't mean that the reason the man issued warrants of arrest for you, Bibi, is because he was accused of crime. So, that is the craziest theory I've ever seen in my life. And that guy sat there, looked at Bibi in the eye and said, nada. Iladi, rien. So let's take an example. Let's say another president accused of crimes. Oh no, what does he do? He goes and looks for some country leader in another place and say, you know what? I will just issue them warrants of arrest so that I can cover up my extra crime. What has that got to do with it? Yes, this man could be a guy with a bad behavior in his job, but it doesn't negate that you were committing crimes, because he is not the only one who has validated that you are doing this. We don't even need him to validate this. We see the videos, Bibi. Tatum, don't you see the videos? You don't see them? And this is one thing I saw this guy say. I was so shocked. This guy said he has not seen one video, one proof that anybody is starving in Gaza.
This is why I wanted to do this interview and get it out there, because I have not seen a legitimate video of some of the starvation claims. Not one of the bombs and any of those things. So
that's what Tatum sat there, looked at people in the eyes and said, with a camera running, his microphone on, he said he has not seen one proof, one evidence of one child or one person in Gaza suffering from famine or starvation. He has not seen it. Nothing. Forget about all the pictures, videos, and everything we see and the reports from Gaza. No. That is why Bibi insists on controlled media entering Gaza, because he wants to make sure that the only people who go there to Israel or wherever else to report on this are people he can insist on them telling what he wants.
And for the past 22 months, Israel has refused to allow international media organizations, including CBS News, into Gaza to report freely, a ban which is unprecedented in the history of modern war reporting.
Before Tatum could ask Bibi the question of journalists who were in a bomb strike, he also made sure to slide in that, some of them were not actually journalists, Some of them have been debunked to be Hamas supporters or sympathizers. So they were not actually journalists. And Bibi came in to just cement it. You know what? You got it right, man. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They were not journalists. Some of them are not journalists. And for the ones that were hit, it's really a tragic situation. But you know what? They were not journalists. And when Bibi was asked again, when he was asked about war crimes about him, he said that is incredible. Journalists have been killed, not one, not two, not three. A lot of journalists have been killed so far in that place. People carrying, imagine that there was a bomb strike that hit a few journalists, a few people there. As rescuers run in, trying to rescue the people from the rubble and rescue the people who have been affected by this. Do you know what? You know, Bibi and his army was like, you know what? Let's drop a second one. Let's see how this goes. Drop a second one. Let's see how it goes. So the rescuers who were trying to rescue those who have been hit were also hit. But don't worry about that. Okay? Officer Tatum will tell you exactly what it is. It is media propaganda. Naysayers, all of them. He has not seen one evidence. One, he has not seen any of it. What are you talking about? What kids? He has not seen anything.
A new black mark on human history. Estimates in Gaza today range from 100,000 killed to over 400,000 killed, and that number is continuously rising. Israel has dropped over 100,000 pounds of bombs on Gaza, exceeding many of the largest bombings in World War II combined.
Even Bibi during that interview spoke about the pictures and videos of children who are starving, that he saw them. It was heartbreaking. He admitted that. But you know the funny thing? Tatum sat there again in that same interview where Bibi admits that he saw videos and pictures of children who are starving and this, and he blames it on Hamas. Oh, Tatum still sat there and said, you know, I've not seen one evidence of any child, of any evidence of starvation. And then he asked him about if there is a method for him to keep his military accountable. Look, I will not lie to you. This guy had good questions for this man. I just wish he was not someone who was just there to praise and worship the guy. He asked him, what are the measures that are taken into consideration to ensure that the people, the military, the IDF soldiers are held accountable? What are the protocols used to hold military IDF soldiers accountable? Well, don't worry about it. Bibi says that his military are the most moral military in the whole wide world. And you know what? He stands by them. And you know what? Officer Tatum was there for it. He didn't see anything that warrants a problem there. Everything they've done, on point, point final, on peut rentrer à la maison. I can't go through everything in this interview that was extremely disgusting, terrible. But at the end of the day, this is one thing I can say. It is okay to love a country. It is okay for Officer Tatum to love Israel, of course. It's okay for him to love Israel. It is nice. It is wonderful. But for you to validate, for you to bring on someone and validate the things he is doing against innocent civilians, children, against innocent people, that's the worst kind of deplorable morals I've ever seen. Yes. This is the worst kind of worshipping, ass-kissing I've ever seen from someone interviewing a world state leader. You shouldn't have even bothered. You should have just written him a love letter and posted it on your channel. It doesn't matter. It would have had the same effect as this interview. You should have just written him a love letter. Because if after seeing what is happening to innocent civilians, you sat in an interview and said all these things you said, prepping him up, polishing he didn't even have to bother answering because you had answers for him. If you've ever been in that situation, probably you have an iota of what is going on to every normal civilian there. The people who have nothing to do with the political squabbles ongoing, people who are just trying to live day to day. There is evidence of children running towards food, looking for food. Yes, it is possible that Hamas is also hoarding food, but it is also true that the IDF soldiers are also doing the same thing. They will allow the people to go through to get food and they them. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Just totally deplorable. I just wish that when someone has no iota of what someone is going through in a place, they can let it be. Just sit quiet. If you go and take your influencer paid trip to Israel allegedly, enjoy it in peace. But please, don't come to us with the bullshit. Don't come to us with this kind of nonsense. Because I don't know how the normal human citizens, the innocent civilians watching this, imagine they are going through everything they are going through, and then you sit there on your podcast and you say something like this. It's unbelievable. Two things can be right at the same time. It is possible that, yes, Hamas is doing things. Of course. Do you think the people in Gaza are happy with what Hamas is doing to them? Of course, they don't. They don't agree with what Hamas is doing because Hamas is hurting them as well. But for you to sit there and also praise the opposing side, doing the same thing to those innocent civilians, tells me a lot about who you are as a person. It tells a lot about your moral character. It tells a lot about who you are as a human being and where your values lie. And the one thing that solidified where your values and morals and respect for yourself lie is when you sat there, looked into the camera rolling with your microphone on, and you said one child spat on a leader, a religious leader, and you had an amazing time, a wonderful time in Israel. Congratulations, Officer Tatum. You made it. You made it into Israel's top list of friends. But I hope you know you are not loved over there, believe me. You are not. Because if they treat their own very neighbors, people who are supposed to have a lot in common with them, the way they do, well, pray for yourself.